Hey, discerning listeners, Love is Blind. Let's see what happens and see what comes flying out of my face as I watch.
Soup is first priority.
It's really good.
I'm not sure what's happening right now. They were having a good date, and they were bonding. Everything seemed to be going well. And then they're leaving in footage that I think normally they would edit out if it weren't for what seems to be that she is observing him very carefully. I don't know if this is the overfunctioning that's happening, a scrutiny.
You good?
Locked in.
And then she asks, "Are you good?" And he's like, "I'm locked in." Yeah. So I don't know if I'm missing something. I think what he's feeling maybe is that she's watching him and it's not super comfortable. I don't understand why she's just staring at him, because they were just having a totally normal conversation. And then, he's like, "Okay, let's eat now." And he's starting to eat, and she's eating too. But she's eating and just staring at him the whole time. So I don't know, but we'll watch that. But she did say that she's a fix-a-hoe, which I think means overfunctioner. She believes that he's a fixer-upper. She said that explicitly. And if she's in that moment right now where she's thinking that I don't know if she got triggered or something, or she has a particular thing about food or manners. I don't know if it's manners. Let's watch. I understand that for some people to drink your soup is impolite. As a Japanese person, it's totally normal. I do it all the time. I don't understand why white people don't do it more often, or Americans, non-Japanese Americans don't do it more often. Because to spoon broth, with a regular spoon into your mouth, it takes forever. It's very unsatisfying. Just like a trace amount of broth. If you really like the broth, like a ramen or something. Anyway, I don't know. But he's drinking his soup. That's fine with me. He's even slurping it. That's also a Japanese thing. It drives my wife crazy, which I get. But anyway, so he is doing that, and she's making a face, and she's like just watching him eat. I don't. Am I missing something? Now maybe she's admiring him, like it's a funny thing. He doesn't look like he's showing off, but if he is, and she just thinks he's cute and funny, hopefully that's what's going on. I just can't imagine I can't imagine my wife just staring at me while I ate. And okay, so I don't know, but we can use it as a jumping off point. When it comes to overfunctioners and maybe codependent people, they are very other focused, and when they're anxious in particular, they will become particularly other focused. They almost have an aversion to thinking about themselves because of the traumas and the parentification they went through growing up. And in order to pay attention to someone else, they either have to, there's only so many things you can do as an observer of someone else's behavior, right? You can either help them or correct them or just comment on them or observe them, right? There's only so many things you can do as an interactive thing other than just blankly staring at someone as they behave. So it kind of lends itself towards scrutiny and criticism. And maybe she has a particular thing around manners or eating or something. Or she just thinks it's cute and they'll just have a laugh and they'll move on. Hopefully that'll happen.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you're loving it. I'm glad you're loving it.
I'm good now.
Yeah.
I kind of want to just observe the water.
Okay, then he's done, and it must have lasted a lot longer than the bit we saw, because he's eaten a lot more than we saw him consume. So who knows what happened? Maybe she diverted her attention to her own food or had more of a conversation. I don't know. And maybe he has a thing of like, I don't like to talk when I'm eating or something. Who knows? I don't know. But then at the very end, he kind of awkwardly says, okay, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ocean, and I'm not going to interact with you, kind of a thing. So I just feel like there's something going on in the landscape here, energy-wise, that I can't figure out. So he's either in this moment just being a dick for some reason, or uncaring, or insensitive, or he's off-put and doesn't understand what's happening at this observation, or he's passive-aggressively sending this message of like, I don't appreciate the scrutiny and the watching of me, or there's something else going on. I don't know. Okay, they're playing the awkward music, the funny, awkward, comedic music, and she's observing. This is another thing that I do. I don't know if I do it in this instance, but, you know, what a lot of people would say, oh my God, I'm so OCD. It's not necessary. It could be, but it's not typically. It's just a preference. I have a preference for organization and for cleaning. I also like to help the wait staff. I've worked in restaurants, and especially if things are really busy, you know, if I'm sitting there and I can have a conversation and do all this, you know, just I do this with Stacy's stuff all the time. I don't think it bothers her at all. I don't even think she might not even notice I'm doing it. But yeah, I like to get everything stacked, put all the food scraps on the top one, and get the silverware in line, and, you know, try to condense everything so people can just grab with as few hands as possible. Just, you know, it's just easy for me to do. I'm sitting there having a conversation. I can do that. Plus, I have a preference for that kind of organization. I'm not going to freak out if I don't have it, which indicates I don't have a true diagnosable pathological compulsion, but he's doing what I would do, but they're playing the awkward music like it's some kind of crazy act or weird or something. And, you know, I don't know what's in her head. She's watching. I feel like we missed something, or they had a fight beforehand. That's going to be my assumption, is that they had some kind of significant fight before this even happened off camera, and they either agreed or they're trying to hold together for this scene, because, you know, the cameras show up there. Okay, we're going to have this date, and you're going to go out here. I mean, that would explain it, honestly, because I don't understand what is happening. Now, inevitably, there's going to be someone in the comments section that's going to say, that's rude, or that's weird to, like, bust your own table or something like that. Fine. You can have your preference. I'm just telling you what I do. I think I got it from my dad, and my dad does this kind of thing as well. And I've never been with someone that it bothered them, you know? And it's usually not done in silence. That's what makes this weird. We could say his behavior's weird. He's slurping his soup and he's organizing the plates. Okay. Let's just say that's weird. But that look, just say something. I don't like this. Stop it. It's annoying to me. This, like, quiet eye judgment that's happening. I'm terrified because, you know, I sent the survey out to everyone after episode 6, you know, just before this episode aired. And everyone loved AD. They loved Trevor the most, and then they love AD, and then they love Amy. So I'm worried that somehow I'm going to get stomped by the internet by saying all this. I'm just trying to call it like I see it. And we can disagree at times. That's expected. I'm sure it happens all the time. So deep breath, Kirk. It's okay. He's taking it a little far, I will say, and then I'm wondering, does he know this is a passive aggression of some sort to her? Like, he knows he's bothering her, and so he's taking it to an extreme or something? I don't know. I just wish AD would say something. You know, she's capable of being assertive. I wish she should just say, hey, stop it.
What are you thinking?
Like, I try to stay present in the moment, you know, of everything, and I'm really enjoying my time. I guess, I don't know, I really don't want to let you down, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel that, like...
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Wow. Okay. So I was thinking that was happening, but I didn't think he would admit it. The roller coaster that this couple takes me on. So that's the way it kind of looked to me, that he noticed that she was disapproving of something.
You know, of everything, and I'm really enjoying my time. I guess, I don't know, I really don't want to let you down, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel that, like,
Is that what you're thinking?
yeah.
It could totally save them from the dynamic of the overfunctioner, underfunctioner. He probably, I don't know if he knows it, but he might have been feeling that happening during that scene. She's scrutinizing and laughing at him. Oh, what are you doing? And he just feels himself crumbling underneath that, and maybe even screwing things up. Like, well, maybe if I do this, and then, oh crap, I'm stacking them too high. What am I doing? I'll just look at the ocean. And he, that's how those dynamic happen. That dynamic develops at first. It's sort of silly, but it becomes locked in over time. And before long, he doesn't have a job. He's playing video games all day. He's smoking weed all day. He never does any chores, and she's working hard. We've seen those scenarios down the road further when we watch shows like this, maybe like 90 Day Fiancé, where these overfunctioning, underfunctioning dynamics have time to really get exaggerated and locked in. He has issues. He presents issues that are very concerning. The gym thing, I need you to have certain lips and butts in order for me to want to be with you. When she was talking about Matthew, which I think would trigger anyone, he got triggered and he got pretty hostile, but he recovered pretty quickly. But, it was hostile. There are issues.
You're gonna let me down?
Not that I'm going to let you down, I just don't want to, because it is a date that's coming up, you know what I'm saying? And I know how much this means to you and all that stuff, and I want to be that guy, and I'm like trying my hardest.
Well, now I'm worried that AD is interpreting it like, oh, you're worried you're going to dump me, I think. You're going to cheat on me or something. Like you're already and maybe he is saying that, but I don't think that's what, at least that's not my top candidate. There's a myriad of possibilities of what he's saying. So I'm worried that AD is going to misinterpret that. I hope that she interprets it as I think what he's saying is, I am worried about disappointing you. I don't want to disappoint you in general. And I hope that she concludes, is there something I'm doing, like staring judgmentally at him and rolling my eyes and laughing at him? Is there something in there that might make him worry that I'm disappointed in him?
It's just, I just sometimes I get in my head,
What is like the biggest roadblock? Or
no
like
roadblock.
the
I'm not. It's not even
thing?
a roadblock. Like
Yeah.
I'm loving everything we got going on, Eddie. Like with this trajectory, we're good.
Yeah. Now, maybe I'm missing what he's saying, but I think she's interpreting it as, oh, you're saying that you're going to leave me. So what's the roadblock? And maybe that is what he was saying, and he's like, oh, she is hearing me.
What just happened?
Nothing. I'm good. I'm just thinking, man. I'm good.
So her style, I think when anxious, is to quietly stare and judge, maybe as a protective measure, which you could imagine, maybe as an overfunctioning measure. For some overfunctioners, they learned under stress to quietly, or they learned under stress to do something that was over functioning, maybe even codependent, and they just fall into it naturally. And when you talk to codependent patterned people, as I have, you'll hear those, or you'll see those patterns. It'll just be automatic because it started when they were very, very young. Their family system socialized them to do that under stress. If I'm really trying to be sympathetic to where she's coming from right now, which is all possible, that she's detecting some kind of distance, some kind of restraint on his part that he doesn't actually want to be with her. And it's scaring her or concerning her, and that's what she's observing. So was that what's happening this whole time? I could see that. And he knows. He's like, oh, I'm under the microscope. She can see me. Danger. She knows that I'm not into her anymore. I mean, maybe.
We're good. Like, it's just thinking about everything, and it's just like things coming at you at once. It's just how the human brain works. Like, it's just that's a lot.
That was just like such a crazy switch up to turn him around and look at me and say, I just feel like I'm gonna let you down. After
No, I didn't
like
say I'm gonna let you down.
So I don't know. And maybe it was a crazy switch up. I think she feels threatened by it. I think she thinks he's saying, I'm going to break up with you. And maybe that is what he was saying. I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now. Because under other circumstances, there's something to point at, right? You have like with him, when he's saying, if you got fat, I'd tell you to get to the gym. I can point at something, and she would say, that's mean. So I don't know what's happening right now. It's a very different interaction than they've had before. Normally, she's more talkative and works with him a bit, It just makes me think something happened. Now, maybe the relationship got more intense and she's getting more scared, there's more at stake, so she's resorting to more defenses because she feels she's over. I don't know. I just don't understand. I worry that you do know what's going on, and I don't. I always worry about that.
it just came out of nowhere.
It did. I mean, like, I don't want.
It didn't come out of nowhere to me. I'm just an observer from the outside watching through an edited version of this.
To come at you and talk fear and like, I don't want to do this with you or anything like that. Like, because I do. Like, I really want to be here for you. I want this to work.
And even if he's being truthful right now, I don't think this is going to help, because I think given how she's interpreting everything, I think negatively, and maybe it is all negative, and it could be all negative. Him saying this, even though verbatim, you would think this would reassure, but I think it's going to be coded in her mind as just more evidence that trying to deceive, or he's in denial, or I don't know. And the weird thing is that it could pan out to be this way, and there's a world in which he sat down at this dinner table, lunch table, or whatever, to have a good meal, and he was in it to win it for the most part with AD. And then because of this interaction and how weird it is and how it makes him feel and how she's responding as he's being vulnerable briefly, but he was, you could argue that he's lying, but I don't know. There's a world in which that all happened, and then he does conclude afterwards that he doesn't want to be with her, and then she can say, see, I knew it. And that's what the defense does for us, is it makes our paranoias happen. Being paranoid about being abandoned by your partner can result in behavior like this, can cause people to abandon you. I don't know, this is so hard to watch. I always hope for people, and then shit like this happens, and I'm like, because if I was there, I'd just be like, okay, what's going on? I'd ask questions. AD, what do you think? Tell me, what's going on with you? And if I could get her to be honest, and I imagine she'd say something like, I'm starting to think that he has already decided he doesn't want to be with me. Okay, so that's the emotion that you're having. That's the sort of the thoughts that are running through your head. Tell me more about that. She tells me more, and maybe she says, well, because, earlier he was like not talking to me and he was acting all weird. Okay, so what you're saying is, because he's acting weird, you start to wonder if he's awkward because in his mind he doesn't want to be with you and he wants to leave you. Is that what you hear? What do you think? And then he says, no. What do you mean I was acting weird? I was just doing what I do with soup. Was there something weird about that? Honestly, okay, tell me more. Clay, what's going on? Well, I started to feel her eyes, staring into the top of my head as I ate my soup, and I just felt like I was screwing things up. I know she's very particular, but so I didn't know what to do, and so the way that I deal with it is just like my ego kicks in. I'm just like, hey, I don't care. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to be chill. I'm going to look out over the ocean, and that seemed to bother her more. I don't know. And if we can get them to believe each other on that, it's like, oh, so what we think is happening, Clay thinks she's scrutinizing and looking down on him and thinking that he's screwing things up, when in reality she is like trying to figure out if he really wants to be with her, or she's starting to have that worry or something. And she thinks that he wants to, funny that both of them think, in my scenario, which God knows, both of them think the other person is done with the other person. But they're like primarily focused, I feel like the other person's done with me, so I'm just going to do this thing, or I'm just going to do this thing. And then the other person is more and more anxious and more likely to engage in that defense or something. I don't know. Given the fact that the last time that they talked, things seemed to be okay. The party seemed to go okay between the two of them. So something must have happened, or I don't know. So anyway, if I were there, or another competent couple therapist, I think there's a way out of the woods. But the problem is that when this happens, there's so little incentive to push through, right? Because they, in their mind, they go, oh, well, back to the drawing board. I'll continue to go to the altar, but I'm done with this person. And when you give that vibe, then if the other person does have a spark, then that'll soon be snuffed out. And there was a real opportunity that was just lost because of a misunderstanding. That's what happens so often.
It's just that it is on the back of my mind of the marriage thing, and it's just something that I struggle with my parents, my family, and just like how divorce, how it really just tears up the household. That's big to me,
Was he always thinking that, and she was observing signs of that? Or is this now coming out and accentuated for him because of the tension that's happening right now and maybe in other contexts? I don't know. But that does lend itself, what he just said, to the hypothesis that she was detecting something that was real, that he was, in fact, distant and not really there the way that he was earlier or something. And her staring at him was a symptom of that. I mean, it's still scrutinizing how one eats soup or something, but there's a reasonable reason for it. And I'm guessing y'all were just wanting me to watch the rest of the scene so I'd see that little bit, because that does. But honestly, I don't know what it means, because of course he's thinking that. I hope all of them are thinking that. They should all be thinking like, I don't know, let's make sure this goes well. And it's possible that he was having that maybe a little bit more than other people. And then it just becomes more accentuated through an interaction like this. I don't know.
You took the music out of my melody, the words out of my mouth.
It's not something that I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna marry you at the end of this whole situation. That's none of that. I could definitely see you as my wife, 100%.
He's not helping. Even if this is accurate. Again, like I said, it would be weird if you didn't have some thoughts along these lines. But typically, I think a lot of them will keep it private, or they'll be strategic in the way they talk about it so they don't paranoid their partner. But the way he's saying this, regardless of how he got here, for AD, it would be strange if she didn't start to seriously question whether or not this was a viable relationship. But it's possible that he's just too self-disclosing about this kind of stuff. I don't know. Looked at in a different way, he was never invested in the relationship to begin with, or he thought, I'll give it a try, but it's probably not going to work. It'll be fun to be on a show. I don't mind if I waste someone else's time, whatever. You can see that too. The way he talks, he seems pretty relaxed, and he doesn't come, I don't know what he is, but he doesn't come across as super considerate, as super thoughtful about the bigger picture. You could sense an under-functioning flippancy to his behavior.
I'm just in thought,
And she just continues to stare at him, and maybe for good reason, by this point anyway. And he is sort of scrambling, and they're both shutting down, getting tough. And I just have to wonder if one or both of them were to take a chance, like the ABBA song, and reach out somehow, if that would get the ball rolling. Okay, that was that thing. Okay. It looks different than before. It looks like AD is, kind of reaching out. So, I don't know. It's just kind of sad. I always hope for people, but I don't know. There's a chance that Clay was never accessible. There were too many barriers for him. And AD detected that and was grumpy today. Is that what's happening? Yeah, it kind of looks like a hand-holding moment of this is over, right? Let's hold hands. I was like, oh, maybe this will prime the pump, and then they just continue to stare blankly at each other.
Something I appreciate about this man. He's OCD, just like me.
Is this the third person on the show that has done that? I don't blame them. That's the way they've been instructed by the internet and TikTok and God knows, maybe even other clinicians that don't know what they're talking about. So I don't blame any individual for following a massive trend that is happening, but I will attack the trend that needs to stop. I've been over this already. I don't need to say it again. Y'all don't need to be. It's probably on a bingo card somewhere about this channel. Kirk rants about misuse of the label OCD. Again, just say very clean or fastidious. Synonyms for fastidious. I'm not a great speller. Don't blame me. Meticulous. Punctilious. That's a new one. Conscientious. That's not the same. Exacting, precise, thorough. Fussy, persnickety. That's a good one. Persnickety. Meticulous, but fastidious. That's a good one. So she could just say he's fastidious, just like me, or he's very clean, just like me, or he prefers things to be organized. Maybe we need some word like he's fastidiorganizey. Something. If there's a new word that becomes trendy, maybe people will take to that. I think sometimes that's what OCD is to people. It's like trendy.
It's actually really fantastic. All his stuff is very neat. Gold star. Gold star.
And like before, let me just contrast it with actual OCD. Someone, if they did have an organizational manifestation of their compulsion and their obsession, they would perhaps in this moment, if he did have actual OCD, he would either be in total distress or he would have to fly home and leave her because he would have an obsession about making sure that his home kitchen cabinets were completely organized. What if, because his mom is coming over to watch the place, maybe she went in and messed up the soup cans, and I need to get home. Or he's just so preoccupied and distressed about having to force himself to stay on this vacation that he can't deal, and he's just in total stress. He can't sleep at night. Maybe even has to turn to substances to calm him down or something. And that's what OCD is. Being organized and maybe getting a little upset if things get out of place a little bit, but it doesn't completely ruin your entire life. It's not OCD. I just want to contrast that.
About how marriage looked like this morning when I woke up, and it was nice. Like, it was like a good feeling behind it. Oh, these little tarts were so freaking good last night. Oh man, look at that little shot. You didn't share with me. You didn't want one because Mrs. I flossed.
So these are articles that came out in between episode 6 and episode 7 during that week, which is essentially where I'm at right now. Episode 7 just was released in my timeline. To you, the season is probably long over. But I thought occasionally I would talk about some notable articles because I think it says something about when they come out, because the journalist presumably only knows as much as we do, having watched the show. But there's this one article on Axios Charlotte is the website, and it is about Charlotte phrases and places in the new Love is Blind season. So I was interested in reading this because they're revealing Charlotte phrases. So I'm thinking like fix-a-hoe, that kind of thing. So looking at this list, though, nothing of interest here. It just has like different names of different parts of town, Pineville, this sort of thing. Bless their heart. Yeah, that's a common Southern thing. I'll say that sometimes myself. My mom's from Kansas. Does that count? And then Bible Belt, like I need to be explain what Bible Belt means. And then breweries. I don't understand this article. It's clickbait. Let's just say that. Okay, so this next article is published on The Independent, and it's about Matthew. And they interviewed him, and I'm very interested in what he says here. Matthew says, a key element of my story that was never disclosed is that I live an alcohol-free lifestyle, and I did the experiment sober. It was a key factor in why I had so much difficulty connecting with women in the beginning. Okay, I could see that. It wasn't shown to us, and the women in the dates that were going horrible, in the edit anyway, didn't appear intoxicated. Now, they might have been, but it didn't look like that, like his date with Sarah, that kind of thing. But that's what he's saying. And yeah, I could see that being a thing. If you're ever sober and everyone else is drinking, it can be hard. And we can imagine that there were times where we would relate to what he's saying if we saw those scenes. But and I don't know if he's saying the whole problem was that, because it certainly can't be entirely on that. And he says, there are also many misrepresentations and falsehoods created, in my opinion, to smear my character. I look forward to telling my side of the story with the full truth at the appropriate time. Okay, yeah. Is the edit manipulative? I'm sure. And when I was watching it, I identified some obvious manipulative editing. Now, I can't know if it's manipulating in a direction or it's just cut for time, or it even makes them look better. Sometimes the edit will make people look better than, that makes them look bad, but then other people will come forward and say, it was worse. Like, who was it in the Seattle season? Was it Irina? People were saying, yeah, the edit's bad, but it's worse than that. Believe me. I don't want to speak ill of Irina without knowing that, but it's something like that. The other thing is, almost always when there is someone on a reality TV show that comes across as unlikable, they will almost always say some version of this, that the edit is manipulative. So is it always manipulative? Maybe, but to an extent that actually is completely misleading. There's certain things we can point to that Matthew did, because we just see the scene, that is unambiguously problematic. We'll have to maybe wait for other people to come forward. All right. Actually, there's another article here that I found on Entertainment, and it interviews the other cast members about Matthew. And it says, sorry, my voice is going. It's late in the morning now, after midnight. It says, season 6 cast member Trevor tells Entertainment Weekly that in real life, Matthew is 100% how he was portrayed in the episodes. All right, who knows? But that's corroboration from somebody. And I guess you have to evaluate whether or not Trevor is a reliable witness. But he's saying that Matthew is 100% how he was portrayed in the episodes. Johnny agrees, adding, I got 4 words out of him the entire time we were there. That's it. Yeah, so it's one thing to be quiet. It's another thing to seemingly be manipulative and a liar, judgmental to people, insulting to people. Like when he was asking people, pick a number, and then someone says, oh, number 4. And he's like, well, other people have chosen that, so I don't understand why you're that unoriginal. I mean, who knows? Was that edited wrongly? I guess the guys wouldn't know what happened in the pods, right, because they weren't there. So I guess we'd have to hear from one of the women. And then Clay says, I probably got less than 4 words. Trevor says he's a nice guy, but he's very quiet. Okay. So they're confirming the quietness, apparently. So they're not confirming what happened in the pods. He knows who he wants to talk to, and he doesn't want to talk to, Johnny explains. He made it very known at the beginning of the day that in day 1 of the pods, I'm here for the girls, not for the guys. That's exactly how we kept it. Okay, well, so he's quiet. That doesn't necessarily make him a villain, right? And then AD says in an interview that she did hear the other women talking about the way Matthew was in the pods, in the dates, but she said she couldn't care less because she wanted to make her own judgment. So it sounds like behind the scenes, a lot of the women were talking about Matthew. Was it unfair talk about him because Matthew is just awkward? Or is it fair criticism because Matthew was hostile and manipulative and self-centered and really focused on the fame aspect? America is going to love me kind of talk, distorted talk that he would have. I don't know. So, but I will allow for the absolute possibility that, and I said this at the time, that the edit, although we're seeing something that is odd and maybe off-putting to some extent, red flag to some extent, the edit makes it look so much worse, or the context makes it so much worse. Absolutely. There's also a possibility that he's way worse than what is presented. That's always the thing with these shows. We can't know. I know enough about people and personality and behavior and assessment that there's no way to know. When I assess people, I have the luxury of being able to assess them over months or years. And I have objective instruments that I might administer. I might talk to other people that they know, and I piece together an hypothesis about the pattern, the personality, the diagnosis. I have that experience. I have that luxury. And watching one of these shows is not even close. This isn't even close to really the kinds of observations I might be able to make within the first 15 minutes of the very first session, because at least then I can ask questions. I can, there's no edit. I know what's happening. Whereas on the show, it's hard to say. So, we can just say that it looks like this, or here's our hypotheses. That's what I've been saying. But I don't know. We seem to have some corroboration that is countering what Matthew's saying, is that he was just made to look bad. So, I don't know. Maybe there'll be more information. All right. Well, I think it's kind of fun, at least for me, to review some of these articles. That's the extent of the articles before episode 7 came out that I think are notable. It doesn't really tell us a lot, but I think it's kind of interesting. I also wonder if it's interesting to you because in your timeline, there's, you've seen the whole season, all likelihood, and there's probably been a lot more reveals, the reunion, but I'm just watching in real time. It's interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to you. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. It's early in the morning, after midnight, and I don't know. I just want to watch more, but I need to call it quits, go to bed, maybe have some ice cream before bed, and start anew tomorrow. Join me tomorrow in my timeline when I start watching the next episode or the next bit of this show. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.